Coach Tish, what a pleasure to have you with us here at the 2026 Women of Color Leaders Symposium. Yay!
Woo!
Thank you so much for sharing with us your love, your expertise. Folks, I want to encourage you to just sit, lay back, take in the information. Know that this is where leadership through resiliency begins, is us taking time to just be nourished and nurtured. Yes, you may hear some voices in the background. And of course, as women of color leaders that we are, Coach Tish
We
is
got to walk the
making
talk.
work for us because she is out of the US. That's the thing she did for herself. But let me share with you more about who she is. Yes, Natisha, also known as Coach Tish Willis. She is a capacity and emotional freedom coach for all women over 40 and beyond who are done leading from survival. With 15 plus years in corporate, higher education, and mental health, she blends the psychology, the nervous system regulation, and the lived experience to help women build success that doesn't cost them their bodies. Wow. After 8 years living abroad and navigating her own healing journey, she teaches women how to expand their capacity, not just regulate their stress, so they can lead, relocate, pivot, and thrive without burnout. Her work challenges the hustle culture and redefines success through longevity, energy, and embodied freedom. Thank you so much for being with us. Coach, I want to say Coach Willis, Coach Tish. Her
Thank you.
presentation today, From Pressure to Capacity, why regulation is one step, but capacity is the goal for women over 40 and beyond. So thanks again, audience. Enjoy and just take it in. Coach Tish, the floor is yours. Thank you again for your offering.
Thank you so much for that warm opening, Santa. I told you before, I'm going to tell you again in front of everybody. I need to carry you around. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to talk about capacity today and why it's uh, so important and so valuable. I am coming to you from Spirit Cafe here in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. We had a little bit of a power outage, and so I had to come to a space where there was Wi-Fi. So I'm super excited to be here with you. So let's just go ahead and get started. For most of us, we have learned and we know how to calm down. We've been told to take a breath. Oftentimes we do that. Most of the time, though, we push through. Most of the time, we are getting things done. Very few of us have learned how to build capacity, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and what that is. Now, by the end of today's session, you're going to understand the difference. What is it? What is the difference between being regulated and what is the difference between being capacity ready and what each of these do for you? You are going to identify the pattern, be able to see where you're leading from pressure, the places where you're leading from pressure, and the places where you're leading from choice. And last but not least, you're going to have walk away with three shifts that will safeguard your nervous system, allow you to lead without sacrifice. So let's talk about it, right? What is the difference between pressure and capacity? Now, most of us, you can get through the day, right? You know how to get through the day, but maybe at the end of the day, you're tired. Maybe you are used to being the strong one. These are all examples of you functioning within survival. When we are moving around because of the pressure that is pushing us. Most of us, we call that extrinsic motivation, right? There's something outside of us that's pushing us. Usually there's some pressure. And when we're under pressure, being able to regulate our emotions helps us to stabilize. On the contrary, when we are in a space where we want to expand, That is where capacity comes in. That's a space where we are leading from choice. We're making choices in terms of what direction that we want to go in. For women over 40, most of us are used to being the strong one in our circles. We're the one that our friends call on. We're the ones that's Johnny on the spot in the group chats. We are the one that our families depend on. Everybody depends on us. And typically our responses are automatic. I got it. No problem. Yep, I'll take that on. I'll handle it. Most of the time, we're not collapsing under the pressure. We're absorbing the pressure. And if we are regulating, most of us are, that's how we get through the day. We're regulating just enough to just survive this next meeting. Now, from the outside looking in, everybody loves us, right? Because we're always showing up, we're always performing, always delivering, right? That's what we call high functioning. We're able to function. We're reliable. Anytime anyone needs anything, we're showing up with the cake and the cupcakes and the balloons, whatever is needed. We show up. And 9 times out of 10, we get it done, no matter what the cost is. That's why everybody loves us. That's also why it's so challenging to do something other than this, because it's so challenging to do something other than just simply survive, because we're able to be there for everyone around us. But here's the thing, high functioning is not the same as having high capacity. Just because we're able to function doesn't mean that we're able to grow. For most of us in our lives, we are the Olivia Pope. We are the ones that show up for everyone. We don't fall apart, not because we can't, but because we haven't given ourselves permission to. That's just something that's just not allowed, right? But when we think about moving from just being able to function to being able to expand, that's where we're talking about capacity. I think of capacity in terms of a glass. Imagine that you have a glass jar or a glass container. Now, if you are in a space where you've got a 2-liter gallon of water and your container is only a cup, that 2 liters of water will overflow. You've got too much, you're overwhelmed. But if you increase the size of the container you have, you can, if your container, let's just say, is a 20-liter container. You know those big containers, those big jugs they have at Whole Foods when you buy your water? If you've got a 20-liter container, a 2-liter problem is not a problem at all because it doesn't overwhelm you. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about increasing uh, capacity or moving to a space where you have increased capacity. Regulation keeps us stable, whereas capacity lets us grow beyond where we already are, beyond what we've already mastered. And we've mastered being the strong one. So let's go ahead and talk about, how do you begin to have more joy, more fulfillment, more time, and space to create a different reality. That's not about you working harder. You actually want to make a shift, not a huge one, but 3 super small ones that are going to be super doable. We're going to make them super doable. So let's talk about those 3 shifts. First shift is about redefining success. Most of us have a definition of success in our minds already. Usually it's what society has defined for us. And we have spent most of our lives trying to achieve that definition or achieve that level. And so we haven't really defined it for ourselves. So we're going to talk about what that means to redefine success in a way that feels good to us, not just looks good to everyone else. Amen. Second shift, we're going to talk about what it means to reclaim your nervous system, meaning take it back. When we're operating out of pressure, somebody else is in charge, someone else is in control. And so we want to take back our nervous system. We want to move the way we desire to move, not because of pressure, but because of capacity. And that leaves us to shift 3. What does it mean to lead from capacity instead of leading from the pressure that we're feeling? So, first shift. When we think about redefining success, what I'm really talking about is no longer measuring success by what we put out. In the US, we're focused, highly focused, and not just the US, this is on every Western society. The focus is on how much did you produce? We are highly focused on how productive can I be? How can I increase my productivity? How can I get more output from myself? Almost like machines, the way that you would measure a machine, how much output is coming out. But I just want you to know that your worth is not tied to your output. Your success is not based on how much you put out. Instead, when we shift from a pressure mindset in terms of thinking about what did I produce, it's a game changer, right? Most of the time when we're being pressured to perform, the only thing that we're looking at is did I perform well? We're not paying attention to what it cost. I'm going to say that again. Most of the time when we're operating out of pressure, the only thing we're asking is, did I perform well? We're not asking, what did it cost? That's why we're burning out. So when we want to shift from pressure to capacity, right? We're going from what did I produce to asking the question, what is this costing me? What is this requiring from me? This is a different way of accounting for your feelings. It's a way to check in on ourselves, something that we don't often do, which is why we burn out. We're disconnected from our bodies, and when our bodies start talking to us, most of the time we don't hear it. We're not paying attention, or we're so focused on the next thing that we have to do, or we're so focused on how I can produce more that we're not looking at the cost to our systems, the cost to our happiness, right? We're losing happiness for the sake of productivity. So changing our mindset is the first shift. Here's the reframe that I want to leave you with. If your current version of success leaves you feeling depleted, that means you're operating out of pressure, not from capacity. If your current level of success, all the things that you are getting done, all the things that you're checking off of your checklist, at the end of the day, you're completely exhausted, that means you're probably moving from pressure and you're not expanding what you're able to take on. You know, you see this woman laid on the couch. That used to be me not too long ago. Every day after seeing 6 to 8 clients a day, I would be completely exhausted and I couldn't figure out why. For the longest time, I thought I was depressed. So I started seeing a therapist. I wasn't depressed. Even after seeing the therapist, I was still exhausted after a long day. Even the short days, if I'm being completely honest with you. Until I began to make some shifts in how I went through my workday, instead of trying to just make it through to see all of my clients, I started looking at how can I make sure that I can hold more? What are the shifts I need to make so that I can hold more? I increased my capacity so much so that I can still, a year later, see those same 6 to 8 clients. I can wake up in first thing in the morning and go watch the sunrise. I can take a walk. I can leave my house and go for a walk after the day is done. That was not the reality when I was operating out of pressure. But now that I'm operating out of capacity, where my activities are focused on helping me to be able to make it through not just make it through the day, but plan for my future so that I'm not having to see so many clients every day. It's a completely different experience. So here's what I'd love to invite you to take a look at. I'm going to give you these micro practices. And these are just, like I said, you don't want to make one large shift. It's not about making one big shift. We want to make some smaller shifts that you can pay attention to so that we can begin making adjustments and creating more joy in our lives. So for 1 week, I just want to invite you, pay attention to where and what are you doing that consistently leaves you empty? What are the things that are draining your energy? Most of us go through life, go through our day to day, and there's these very small things that take our energy, but they add up. It's like walking through the world where there's a hole in your pocket and there's constantly money falling out. It might be a dime or a quarter here, but if you do that over a few years, those dimes and quarters add up. Our energy is the same way. So, what are those things that are kind of nitpicking at our energy? At the same time, what are the things that are restoring energy for us? What and who is restoring energy? What replenishes us? What do you do when you feel replenished? What helps you come back to yourself? I know we want to go ahead, hurry up and get it done, hurry up and make a shift. But if we're not increasing what we are, increasing our awareness of what is currently happening, really taking stock of what's happening in our lives, it makes it really difficult to change. So I'm going to invite you, let's increase our awareness before we make any adjustments. Okay. So that's the first shift. Second shift is all about expanding your emotional stamina. Stamina. I know when we talk about stamina, when we think about stamina, we're usually thinking about physical stamina, right? How do I run a race, for example? If you think about marathoners, they do this 26.2-mile race and they're able to really endure. But emotional stamina is not necessarily about enduring more, right? Being able to endure as much as it is staying present. Okay. So the second shift is really about expanding your emotional stamina, your ability to stay present, in particular with yourself. Now, this is a little bit different than resilience. I feel like we're always talking about resilience. This is actually, resilience is my least favorite word. Because I feel like resilience focuses on how much can you take and bounce back? How much can you take and not make noise about it? How much can you take and not complain? Stamina, on the other hand, is really about noticing the discomfort and staying and sticking with it, right? You saw this a young woman lifting weights. I don't know if you've ever lifted some heavy weights before, maybe lifted a heavy gallon of water or heavy groceries or heavy baby, right? But usually we're not dropping the baby, right? We're not dropping the water or dropping the groceries. We're staying with it. We're staying with it as long as necessary. When it comes to our emotions, more times than not, we avoid the uncomfortable emotions by any means necessary. That's why emotional stamina is so important when we're talking about getting to a place where you're increasing your capacity. It's not always about the uncomfortable emotion that someone is putting on you, as much as it is the uncomfortable emotion that shows up when it's time for you to put a boundary in place. The uncomfortable emotion that shows up when it's time for you to say no to the people you always say yes to. the uncomfortable emotion that shows up when it's time for you to choose yourself as opposed to neglecting yourself one more time. So when we talk about stamina, that's what I'm talking about. Now, your micro practice when it comes to increasing emotional stamina is, where do you go when you notice that you're shutting down? Who are you around? What are you doing in those moments when you're quiet or withdrawing or disappearing? What just happened? When you find yourself overdoing or overgiving, where are you? Who are you with? Who's calling on you to fix everything for them, to take over, to make decisions for them? When you're noticing that you're rushing to fix things and to make those uncomfortable emotions stop, maybe it's guilt, maybe it's shame. Where are you? We want to get in the habit of really identifying, really taking stock of our environment, noticing our patterns, again, before we make any shifts. Because that kind of information is what's going to give us the insight that we're looking for. Case in point, have you ever had a boss that came into the office, a new boss, maybe someone who's new to the company, and they come in and instantly start changing everything without taking any assessment of what's actually going on? They assume they already know what's going on. They already know, right? But typically they're missing nuance, specifics. Maybe they have a general idea, but the nuts and bolts are missing. How does that feel when they do that? Annoying, right? Like they're only making temporary changes. Exactly. When we rush to go fix our lives or fix the things that are making us uncomfortable, usually those fixes are only temporary because we have tried to avoid the uncomfort, the discomfort that is showing up when we are attempting make things better or completely change or shift things. The discomfort that usually rushes in without our noticing is self-criticism. We don't notice it though. And if we're really smart, you probably intellectualize it. You probably rationalize it. You probably say, no, I just need to get this done. These are the words I need to say to myself to make this happen. But in that moment where we are trying to just get things done, we're operating from from pressure. And we're avoiding sitting with the uncomfortable, the discomfort of maybe seeing where we would have liked to do things different. The challenge, though, is this is where self-compassion shines the most. This is where you have an opportunity to really be there for yourself. For most of us, this is really difficult to do if we're not used to doing this, right? This is where giving ourselves grace comes in. And for many of us, if we're high functioning, high achieving, this is where having a coach to support you comes in as well. Because it's too much on one person to try to change the things, be present with the emotions, and give yourself compassion. I'm just saying, it's a lot. So moving on to the third shift. What we want to do in this third shift is build expansion rhythms, right? How do we create a rhythm? Now, when I think of rhythms, I instantly think of dancing. I'm from Chicago. So whether you're doing a two-step or Chicago style stepping, right? It's a 1-2 situation. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, right? It's give and take. When we're thinking about building expansion rhythms, it's a 1-2. I'm going to show you what that 1-2 is. But it's not a recovery cycle. Recovery cycles usually come by way of us breaking down. Recovery is usually what most of us do on the weekends. That's if you're working a corporate job. Entrepreneurs, I don't know. Y'all don't be liking to recover at all. But I want to invite you to stop recovering from your life. Instead, start building the capacity so that you're able to hold it. So, what does that look like? So, when we're in survival, this is what most of us, most women are living, right? Phase one, you find yourself pushing past your limits and you burn out. Then you collapse because your body forced you to stop. That could be on a daily basis. I know plenty of folks who, for some reason, we've been told that it's good to feel exhausted, go to bed exhausted. And so a lot of us work until we're exhausted. We recover just enough, right? You get just enough sleep. You drink just enough water just to get up and go at it again. And then the cycle continues. That's a survival pattern. That's what many of us are doing, surviving. On the contrary, this is what expansion looks like. It looks like leading from your full self. That means that you are making decisions, clear decisions based on what you want, what your values are, what works for you. And when you lead, you take a moment to process what happened, not from a place of critique and criticism, but from understanding. The integration phase is vital when you are leading big things. Once you integrate, then you expand. You see where else you'd like to grow. And once you recognize that, once you have reached a place where you're growing, then you rest. Rest is a part of your work when you're building capacity, that is. If you're just leading from pressure and you're just surviving moment to moment, yeah, rest is not restorative at all. It's your body screaming for help. That's what we want to break. That's the habit we want to break. At the end of the day, rest is not a reward for a hard day's work. Rest is a part of how you create capacity. Let me say that again. If you want to build capacity, rest is not a reward for a hard day's work. It's a part of the design. So let's pause here and just think about it for a moment. Where are you still building from pressure? Is it at work? Is it at home? Is it with your friends? What does your body need? Is it more sleep? Is it a good yoga class? And where have you confused just functioning with thriving? At the end of the day, you don't need to just become calm. You need greater capacity so that when things happen that really upset you and make you angry, you have the capacity to hold both that anger and your ambition. You want to have the capacity to be able to hold the honesty of, yes, I'm feeling exhausted, and expand so that exhaustion is not your portion forever. You want to have the capacity to be able to admit that you're frustrated and be honest about that with yourself while having self-compassion, compassion with your emotions. At the end of the day, capacity is about being able to hold more of life's truths without harming yourself through your words, your thoughts, or your actions.
I love that. I love that.
So I am so grateful that you all came and shared with me today. Because in exchange for your time and your participation, I am gifting you with
Mm.
what I call the regulation reset.
Mm.
If this resonated for you and you realizing that regulation is just the beginning, I created something to support your process. Now, the regulation reset is 3 guided audios. I
Mm.
have recorded them myself with the background of the ocean here in the Mexico where I live. I did
Mm.
all of this myself. And there's 3 of them.
Mm.
They're designed especially for those of you who might be holding a lot. You've got a lot going on.
Mm.
And you need something to support you as you come back to your body, as you find your center, and as you let it all go.
Mhm. Mhm.
Please stay in touch. Friend me on Instagram. You can find me at Coach Tish, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. It has been such a pleasure sharing with you today.
Yay! Thank you so much, Coach Tish. What a
Thank you.
blessing. What a blessing. What a blessing. I took notes.
Oh,
I
did
took
you?
notes.
Oh,
Yes.
I love
And here
that.
are my takeaways. Regulation stabilizes, capacity expands. And we owe it to ourselves to expand the container. You
Mm,
mentioned creating the container, right? I want to show
yes.
you one of my container.
Yes,
This
yes,
is one of my
yes. I love it.
containers,
I
right? I have
love
3 of
it.
these sitting on the floor here because,
I've got mine too.
yes, right? We have to increase. And then the other thing that I took away were the 3 small shifts. Number 1,
Mm,
redefine success.
mhm.
Let's stop letting this capitalist society that we've been conditioned in tell us
Dictate
what
our
success
lives.
means. Yes?
Yeah, it's hard. It's scary.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely, it is. Number 2, reclaim your nervous system. I am the expert at the neurobiology of trauma, and I can tell you how to regulate it, how to, go with the ebbs and flows, but reclaim it. It is your nervous system, beloved. And number 3, lead from capacity, not
Yes.
productivity. And what I know is that when we're leading from a nervous system that's been tended to,
Mm,
our capacity increases. So we don't have to worry about productivity. Amen, Coach
amen.
Tish? Amen. So, folks, I hope that you've gotten a lot from Natisha's Willis talk.
Yes,
And I am so grateful that you are participating at
me
the
too.
2026 Women of Color Symposium. Thank you for your gift, Coach Tish. And there's more to come. And again, there is this gift that Coach Tish has made available to us. You will get links to all the gifts made available throughout the symposium. So if you missed it or you didn't get a chance to grab Coach Tish's handles or social media or how to reach her, we got you. Don't worry about a thing. Thank you again, everyone, for participating. And once again, Natisha Willis, thank you for your gift, my sister.
Thank you. Come
Wow.
hang out in the lobby. I'll see y'all in the lobby.
Be well.